Yeah. Just, yeah.
Yes. Julie Reisler, it is awesome. You came on just a few moments ago. We talked for like 60 seconds before I pressed record on this, and you're smiling, and we have you for a little while. And uh, you said this, that you love being in this energy, and I do too. This is really cool. So, welcome to the Chip Chat podcast, and I am super excited about introducing everyone to you because by this time, everyone will have heard your biography, and again, I will have said enough to make you gush and blush, and be a little bit embarrassed, but maybe not too much, because you'd say, "Oh yeah, I did that."
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I'm laughing. I will be matching my pink headphones. So
Yes.
it's a gift to be here with you. This is such an honor. I'm really
Well,
grateful.
thank you, ma'am. And actually, I was today. I was just listening to several of your podcasts, and I was getting ready for this.
Oh,
And the first thing I wanted to do is just congratulate you on your success. I mean, your podcast looks amazing. You've had, I guess, I just heard that you had an interview with Neil Donald Walsh, which is awesome.
yeah, I
And
did.
I guess at least two with Greg Braden, and I know a lot more than that. I mean, but just congratulations.
Thank you. And you were one of the amazing interviews that I still get feedback about. So
Oh,
you're in
wow.
that soup. Oh yeah.
Well,
Oh
thank you.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
About joy. Oh yeah.
That's wonderful. I appreciate that. That's always good to hear. And today I was actually this is just conversations about leading a better life.
Mm,
And what I love doing is talking with friends. And like I remember the first time that you and I met, was cool. I mean, we just met each other and then just fell off the deep end and talking about life and the universe and the cosmos and what it's all about and who we are and what everything is all about. And just it was awesome. So I imagine we can continue some of those conversations today.
yeah.
And yeah, and I have some cool things to ask you and to get into, and we'll see where this goes. But first, I was hoping we could hear a little bit about your origin story and your transformation, because
Sure.
yeah, things have changed for you quite a bit in your life.
I just have to say, if it's okay, before we dive in, I always rate how a conversation, how deep, meaningful, and excited I am by the level that my cheeks are hurting. And they're already my cheeks on my face. Someone was like, which cheeks? Yeah, my cheeks on my face. And I can feel them, right? Not from doing too many squats. No, from listening to you and just being around you, I'm like, wow, they're hurting already. Okay, that's a good sign. So I had to open this up that way because my
That's very
cheeks
cool.
on my face did not always hurt. We could go
It's
there.
Chip Frank's cheek herder. So yes, that is. I will add that to the accolades. That's wonderful.
It's a sign.
Yep.
Oh, I love
Yes.
it.
So, I don't know if you get tired of telling your story, and if you get bored with it or anything like that, that's completely fine.
Yeah.
I was telling Hal about that because I listened to him give so many podcast interviews, when we're working in the same house or whatever. I'm like, do you ever get tired? Because usually he gets all animated and worked up, and oh, it's like this, and the doctor said this, and this is what I
Yeah.
was, and you're delusional. And I'm like, do you get tired of that? And he says, you know what? I only get tired if I have to do it multiple times a day. So as
Nice.
long as
I
he
love
gives
that.
his story once, then he's fine.
That's so how. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes.
I never get tired of it. And I feel like, for me, the intention is always to share with the hopes that anyone who's listening, if there's even an ounce of like relating I think to have that sense of hopelessness or to feel
Mm,
scared or feel alone, it makes me want to cry. I would never want anyone to feel that. And so to me, it's like, if that can help somebody, then it is worth it every time. I don't mind sharing ever about it. It does not, it never feels old. I don't know if
yeah.
it reminds me of the gift of grace, of transformation, of just the gift of life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's so much of what we've been through that's common with other folks. and
Yeah.
they can find little things in there and say, you know what, I felt that and I did that. And oh, when she said that, or when she talked about the autoimmune disease, or whatever, and that
Yeah.
reaches the right person, it can be transformative. So you're
Oh,
right
yeah.
about it being grace. I love that word. In You and I speak a lot of the same vocabulary. There's like two Venn circles, and they're not exactly lined up, but they're mostly yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
mostly there. So that's cool. But how did it get started for you, Julie?
Yeah. Now I'm like, okay, and how
Where do
how
I
deep, how
begin?
where do I begin? No, I think a good place to start is for me, and this I think many times our deepest, darkest challenges can, when we look at life as a process of evolving and becoming more
Yes.
conscious and aware, and that has been one of the gifts. It often starts with being in that dark spot, that
Hmm.
darkest place. And for me, I always share that a lot of it's interesting. I can feel like tears in the back of my eyes as I say this because and I'll get to in a minute why it's still present with me today. I did a lot of, some of us have trauma that someone did to us. I grew up in a very loving household. Very loving parents. My dad was undiagnosed with PTSD. He was a Vietnam veteran and
Mm,
super loving, did anything for me and my sister. We did not realize he was suffering from bipolar depression and PTSD, all of it undiagnosed, and ADHD. And if you put that combo together, I mean, it's lethal. And as somebody, as a little girl, I was very, very in tune, high empathy slash empath. So I could feel him, I could sense that. And it was really, it was heartbreaking because I loved my dad was, like my best friend, the person I always idolized. And I could feel that he really struggled with worthiness, with feeling, good enough, all of those things. And I think I took a lot of those feelings on and then started to, look for ways to comfort myself. And for me, the first memory I have is actually with my dad too. One of the first memories was getting like 3 donuts with him. I mean, it was
yeah.
one of my favorite mornings ever going to nursery school, but I use food to medicate, to not have to feel. And for me, a lot of I would say the tough moments, the trauma was really it was attacking myself. It was actually self-induced. And I don't blame myself, but I say that for those who, I felt very guilty. Like I had a really nice childhood. I grew up in a beautiful area outside of Boston. My parents, my dad struggled a lot financially. We grew up in a very affluent area, and he struggled. It just because he, again, having all those things that were not treated, and I just had a lot of that. Seeing that struggle, but then seeing the real essence of him and my mom, and feeling like, what is going on here? And grew up in a very, highly intellectual, competitive area, and I turned that on myself. So competitive, I always felt like, well, I'm not as smart as that person. I just did a lot of that comparing, sadly.
Yeah.
And
The
anyhow,
thief, the thief of joy comparison.
the thief of joy, exactly. And when you start doing that, you're going to come up short. And for me, that addiction, that outlet, that way of dealing, not having to deal with the feelings, was through food, mainly through food addiction. And it was, something on the outside, people really didn't have a sense of it. But there was this inner like attacking of myself. And I say that because, what happened years later, I went to college, I ended up marrying the person I was dating in college, really good person. I did not want to listen to inner wisdom and intuition. And I
Yeah.
just felt like again, great person. And I ended up, having a full dark night of the soul where I woke up in the middle of the night and it was like, you're not okay. And you're not okay
Yeah.
here. And my 2 kids were under the age of 2. It was not like a really
Wow.
great timing for the divine to talk to me.
Yeah. Well, Julie,
um,
can I just ask you about that?
yeah.
You said you didn't honor your intuition. Like, did you know that you shouldn't have married him to begin with, and
Yeah,
didn't honor that?
it's a great question because I talk a lot about intuition. It's why I think this is one of our superpowers. Yeah, he was such a close friend of mine. He's such a good guy. Like nothing, it all on paper. It just I so wanted this to be, I think truly I always saw him as somebody that almost like a family member, but I did have
Yeah.
intuition about it, and I really did not want to honor it or listen to it. Loved his family. It felt very stabilizing. They were amazing to me. They're still very kind. And it was just something I didn't want to look at. And yeah, that was one of the things I had to really, really address and deal with. Was, you know what, like, great person. And I would say it this way: I think energetically, there's a lot that's different, that it didn't mesh. And to be honest, my body, there was a lot of stress in not listening and honoring my intuition. And I ended up, soon after, I did a lot of personal development work, a lot of counseling therapy. I say for 40 grand, you too can like really figure yourself out. 12-step work, I mean, a lot of everything. And I just realized it was not right for me to stay there. And I ended up, you know, ended our marriage. And
And that
soon
had to
after I
be
had
difficult for you too, I imagine.
Oh my gosh. I mean, especially, in a family, big family where no one gets divorced and there's a pretty strong connection to living
Mm.
a certain way and religion. And yeah, it was one of the hardest things. It was actually one of the first times I listened to my voice and honored my truth. And it was as a recovering people pleaser, one of the hardest things I've ever done. Yeah,
Gotcha. You know, and
really
I'm
hard.
I'm also curious about that. And you said you had that intuition and didn't follow it. And I'm certain because it's you and I, and we're talking about this, that we're going to talk about self-worth and loving ourselves and that kind of thing later.
Oh,
Would
yeah.
you think that not honoring or listening to your intuition is actually does that come from a lack of self-worth, or not feeling
Yeah.
strong enough to be able to do that?
Yeah, and it's funny, Chip, because I am in such a different place today that it's like, how could I have done that? But I really did
Mm,
not feel like I really looked to him as like he seemed to have it all together. If he's a smart guy, successful, like I was like, I don't know. I had a crazy, upbringing. My had a lot with my dad and instability. And I just, yeah, I didn't trust myself. And I definitely think that I teetered with self-worth. And I, again, also had this secret of eating food and hiding it. And, I
yeah.
ended up doing this TED talk about it where I'm like, I was sitting on his parents' toilet eating frozen chocolate chip cookies, like bags of them. I did not feel, I was really ashamed, and didn't trust my wisdom. And for sure, it's definitely linked to self-love, self-worth, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And you made that decision to end the marriage, and then you did $40,000 worth of self-development.
Yeah.
I don't know, like kind of in that order.
Yeah.
Uh,
Prior to leaving to all the way through and after there was
oh,
it
prior
actually,
to leaving. Okay.
yeah,
And,
prior.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm thinking
Lots
that
of,
maybe some of that prior to might have been linked to the whole making that decision and finally honoring the intuition.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
taking a big step because yeah, you already mentioned it, an empath. And for those of you who don't know what an empath is, I think you might, but it's from the word empathy. And you feel extreme empathy for other people, and you take on their
Mhm.
feelings, you take on their emotions. And I am a fellow empath. So, like, if you start crying, it's going to happen with me too. And by the way, we're cool with crying on this podcast. I've done it many times. So, even
Nice.
like on ones by myself, and I'm like,
Oh,
should I
I
edit
love
that? And
it.
I'm like, no, I'm not going to edit it because I'm
Beautiful.
fine with it. I used to hate showing emotion, or not hate it, but I was ashamed of it. And
Yeah.
I grew up with a Marine dad, and he was very loving as well. But it's not, boys didn't cry. That's the thing that happened or whatever. And anyways, now
Mm,
my family will say too that I have no problem with that. So they're
so
like, "Oh, Dad
awesome.
got over that hump. He can cry anytime now." So
He's good with that now. We'll see him just start tearing up at anything. Right.
yes,
Well, it's a healthy release. And I think I was laughing when you were talking about empath, Chip, because I'm like, the word that often goes with empath, if it's not something that's harnessed, is codependent
yeah,
and people pleasing. And that's one of the areas I had gotten myself into a 12-step group. I talk about this very openly, about 10 years before this awakening. So I'd already started to do quite a bit of excavation on myself. And I remember, just to share with people, if anyone's struggling with addiction, I mean, this for me was food. I always laughed. I'd wished it was alcohol, because it's not, who the heck wants to like, have like pounds of, bags of M&Ms in your car. It's just not cool. Like I was
Mm.
like, could it be? But you don't get pulled over for bags of M&Ms, but I should have, I could have, it felt like I was drugged. And I went to a support meeting. I really considered driving my car into a tree. It was a horrible,
Mm.
horrible evening. And it was a time when I had contemplated, was my marriage working, but I was not at a place where I could handle that. And that work I started there, that began the process. And then of course the therapy, and then personal development, and then the 40 grand was in there. And then um it kind of cracked me open. I always say that was like an excavation process. And I think we are able to expand our consciousness in different, we all have a different time frame, but it just, again, I woke up in the middle of the night. I couldn't deny it. And I also thought I was having a heart attack. It was a panic
Wow.
attack. Yeah. And I just knew, I said, I'm not okay here. And I'm thankful I listened. It was very challenging. One of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine that that was a very difficult conversation to have.
Yeah.
And um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if we even need to talk about that, but after that, obviously, what I'd like to hear is like the awakening, and you use that word, and I'm really curious about it. I love the word. So, what is when did it
Yeah.
happen, and what does that mean?
Yeah. That's a great, God, you asked such good questions. I feel like there was a little bit of awakening going on in bits and pieces. And then of course literally the middle of the night. And then I
Hmm.
finally got to this conclusion of like, I, I'm not going to be here if I don't listen to myself. Like I got a premonition about my body and my health. And I started to take it seriously. And I really think it's actually, I would say one of the catalysts to this. I was working with a coach. It's partly why I even got into coaching and
Yeah.
did a master's degree. And there was a coach I was working with, and I was so freaked out about ending a marriage. I had 2 kids under the age of 2. It was really stressful. And he
Wow.
said to me, Julie, if you knew your life would be amazing either way, what would you do? And I thought, I didn't even know
That's a
what
great
it like.
question.
It's a great question. And I think it was like people talk about, I saw my whole future. It's like the light shined on it. And it was like, I can have an amazing life and listen to myself, even though this is going to be horrendously hard. And that was the beginning. Um, I think a key pivotal moment of this awakening, I ended up interestingly going back to get my master's degree in health and wellness coaching. And it was there while I'm studying about stress affecting your body and epigenetics and how, mind body science, that I found myself with EMT all around me in a Target of all places. And I passed out and did not realize, and this is why I think what I'm talking about is so important, is I had developed an autoimmune condition and had no idea, which was my thyroid just stopped working.
Yeah.
But what I believe, Chip, I really do, is I heard intuitively my voice. I had not had a voice, and I don't blame anybody. But my body had started to attack itself. And that is the definition of autoimmune, which
Yeah.
is also very much connected to not loving yourself, not being kind to yourself. And so this is why I feel this is important too, is I really think we manifest often, if we're not aware. And so that awakening really, like during my program and with this health breakdown, it was like my eyes became very open and I realized, okay, I'm changing things up. This is
Yep.
not, I'm going to change it up here.
So what did they say was the reason for passing out in Target, which is Target for those of you who don't speak French? Yes.
Right. It's my only French these days. I did take it, but I don't really know much anymore. Well, I have a fancy, I don't even call it an illness. They do call it a disease. I call it a condition that's changing, but
Yeah.
it's very fancy. It's called Hashimoto's. It sounds like a delicious sushi dinner. It's not. I wish. It is. It's basically underactive thyroid, which what I didn't understand is, controls your metabolism, your basal body temperature, your entire functioning, your adrenals, your body's mechanisms. And so I'd had quite a few symptoms and I just didn't realize what they were, but I'm very
What were the
lucky.
symptoms? Because I also have a low thyroid. I got tested for that and they said your thyroid's super low, which
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense because I work out and drink green shakes and do keto and all of those fun things and can do a lot
Yeah.
of burpees. I'm really proud of myself for that. And I'm still overweight. And yeah, so my
Yeah.
doctor I'm working with says we're going to work on that next. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I'm curious, but what were your symptoms for Hashimoto's?
Yeah, my symptoms, I was starting to get night sweats. I was
Mhm.
puffy around my eyes. Like when I see pictures of me now, it looked like the light wasn't fully on in my eyes. I felt a lot of just I would be tired, but not like I need to take a like tired behind my eyes would be the best way to say
Yeah.
it. My hair was thinning a lot. I was teaching fitness and working out at the time, so it was confusing because I was in good shape, but like
Yeah.
I felt puffy and cold a lot.
Wow.
Mhm, yeah.
And this just like came to a head in middle of a store.
Yeah, I was actually it's funny. I was separated, almost divorced. I was actually with my boyfriend, who's now my husband. We were in West Palm Beach, visiting a very dear friend. And the next thing I know, I'm joking. I I kind of like opened my eyes. I mean, I was conscious, but not fully. And I'm like, why are there so many young, like attractive EMT people here? What's going on? Like what the heck's going, and they were like, wow, we usually get like 90-year-olds that are like, typically we don't have a mid-30s woman. And we didn't know what it was yet. I just felt very lightheaded. I did not feel good. I felt like the whole store was coming in on me. And it wasn't until I, went home, went to the doctor, ended up going to the hospital. Um, I have a story for another day, but it's pretty amazing what ended up happening. I was just really blessed. I
Hmm.
was really blessed to have the timing, the doctors, all of kind of what ensued afterwards. But they
Wow.
said they're like, you're the way that it's operating, it's not operating. Like you literally, nothing is, it's not, it's offline. And
Is
I was
this, can you
lucky.
give us the 30,000 foot view? If you don't want to go into details, that's all right.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
what was the story there? It's not operating. What did they mean by it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is kind of there are two pieces to it. So my thyroid, which is very interestingly, for those who don't know, it looks like a butterfly. It looks the gland, and it's right over your throat. And interestingly, I'm very into metaphors, and like the whole symbol I'd used that year was a butterfly because I was literally like changing my life and shapes. I'm like, wow, isn't that
Wow.
interesting? My butterfly on my throat stopped working, and I'm getting my voice back and speaking my truth, and it's covering your voice. And so that was fascinating. I was studying this in school. I was so lucky because I had two professors who were like, Julie, you need to look at other areas other than just, yes, medicine, but you need to look at your stress. You need to look at meditating. You need to look at your
Hmm.
diet. And I was so blessed. I had these like really well known, incredible guides that were basically helping me to come up with a new way of living. I had no idea that gluten and dairy were inflammatory. I had no idea. And I was lucky to have that guidance, which has made a difference. But I'll share this is to me like the grace of the divine. I told you about my compulsive eating addiction. I had
Yes.
been, this is so like quick story if it's okay, because it's kind of
Of
amazing to
course.
me.
Yeah.
This is like, I don't share this with most people, but I grew up with a mom who was an opera singer, music teacher. I did a lot of
Oh my
dancing and
gosh.
theater.
I did not know
Yeah.
that. That's very cool.
My house was like, it was interesting. I mean, we were always singing. I knew all the show tunes. So I always loved performing just for the fun of it. I danced, I sang, I was on stage all the time. And I stopped because I was told by a ballet teacher I
Mm,
was too big. And then the inner voice said, you're not good and you're not pretty
mm.
enough. You're not this, whatever, the bull stuff crap about
How
not.
old were you when that happened?
I was about before 17, about 16. I had this
Mm,
teacher that, yeah, who I was in a advanced ballet class. And she's like, hey, just want to share with you, like, you're really not built like a ballerina, like I wouldn't pursue it. And I was crushed and I
Oh
loved
gosh.
dancing. And I just thought, well, I suck at it all then. I mean, I just kind of went in and stopped. And one of the gifts of doing this inner work was realizing, and I credit Julia Cameron and the Artist's Way, because I
Oh
realized
yeah.
I
The morning
love her.
pages.
Morning
Yeah.
Pages. Yeah. I did her book and I was like, I love dancing and I love performing. And I went back to acting on the side and I got into on camera work and I was brought in to do commercials. And the next thing I know, I was asked to do commercial modeling, which as like a recovering food addict, I'm like, what? And I was asked to do a audition in New York City for Canyon Ranch. I'd always wanted to go there. It's a beautiful, holistic spa. And I was booked to go to New York City the day I ended up having to go to the hospital for
Hmm.
them to, because I started to not feel well again and had to go to the hospital and get myself taken care of with my thyroid. And I thought it was over. And it ends up being, I had one picture photo that I had taken very like in the pool, no makeup. And I was in, I like literally, that's all I had time to send. They ended up bringing me anyhow and they booked me for this job at Canyon Ranch. So while I'm like, I mean, you can actually, I can see it in the photos and they ended up, the photo shoot and the experience at Canyon Ranch, they ended up using these photos in Health Magazine, ironically, in the New York subway. They blew it up to 12 feet and it was me meditating on a rock.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and I just, in that moment that they captured, I remember thinking I just connected with the divine and I was like, please help me to heal. And it's just, it's powerful for me because I actually have it right over here. I look at it every day and I'm like, this was like, yes, the whole
Is it on
modeling
a like
Canyon
a wide
Ranch.
erase board or something or what? Or
It was in a magazine and I took it
oh,
out
the
and I
picture.
framed it. The
Gotcha.
picture.
Yes, the
Yeah.
picture. Got it.
Yeah. So it just reminded me there's something greater than me that is over helping me and guiding me. And the moment they shot that photo was the moment I literally had this like awakening. I literally was, remember sitting on a rock in Massachusetts looking up and I just felt like, thank you so much for helping me to be okay. Like, thank you. And that was one of the pivotal moments for me, was actually on that rock.
Very cool. So
Yeah.
uh, got out of a marriage, listened to your intuition. The life is starting to change. Excavation has begun, and I guess did it was it a gradual process or did it happen kind of quickly when it happened? And what did it look like for you when it happened, like before and after, Julie?
Yeah. Do you mean the
Yeah.
like transformation
Uh-huh.
kind of the
Yes,
timeline?
because I see some of the after Julie, and like when
Yeah.
you tell me that you're unhealthy and all of that, of course I've heard some
Yeah.
of that story before, and I'm like, you
Yeah.
definitely don't look unhealthy now, and you look
Yeah.
happy, and you take everything in, and it doesn't seem like being an empath. Uh, it doesn't seem like it hurts you at all, which is a good thing.
Yeah. It's a great question. The span of time, so the beginning, the breakdown, the true breakdown started in about 2003. And that's when I
Yeah.
started getting myself help. Um, Julia Cameron, Morning Pages, and all the way to, it was about 2009 of this awakening, realizing, oh my gosh, I'm not in the right space. And so for me, it felt like the more I was excavating, kind of like peeling an onion, although onions make you cry, although this process made
Yeah.
me cry quite a bit.
There
So
you go. It's
it's a
pretty
good
accurate.
metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took the leap and started my own business and just was like, I'm doing it. I've heard my intuition now for years. Like I'm doing it. That was about 7 years ago.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it's been, this Hashimoto's journey is about 10 years. And I just met with a specialist looking at my numbers. I'm very grateful. A lot of them are either normal or really in a
Optimal.
good getting there, not
That's
perfectly getting there. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I wanted to circle back to the morning pages and Julia Cameron, the Artist's Way, and just let folks know. And as someone who teaches journaling and journaling techniques and all of that, I'm just always a little bit uh, like professionally jealous of how many people know about the morning pages. I mean, that's amazing, and maybe I need to work on that. But I think it's like one of those things that's like, hey, Chip, you need to get into gear and get more with that. So That's cool. But the morning pages, as I understand it, and you can correct me with this, but it is basically free form writing first thing in the morning of anything and everything that's on your mind. And I believe she recommends 3 pages of it, so freehand pages. And afterwards, you're not supposed to look at it at all.
Yeah, it's like you've read it. You got it. It was so lovely. I got to do a retreat with her and meet her in Sedona a couple years ago. And
Of
we talked
course you
about
did.
this. Right. Right.
That's awesome.
I was like, Julia, just tell me because I'm so tempted to read through it. She goes, You really, that's not the point. It's the point is to do like this. I call it a heart dump. It's a brain heart dump.
Huh.
You're just getting it out. Exactly what you said. Very powerful. I don't do it every day, but I found it to be a very powerful tool. And that book is extremely, it's actually what inspired me to even do the book I wrote. It's just, that book was so powerful. That and Hal's book, those two
Yeah.
books
The
actually.
Miracle Morning.
The
Yeah.
Miracle Morning.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
And I'm
Yeah.
very glad you read that because that is how we met in Planet
Yeah.
Hal in Cleveland. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. Yep. So a heart's dump every morning. So that's um, I wanted, and I would like to actually get into this because I wanted to ask you like your daily rituals, because I know you have a ton of them. And I don't know if it's a ton, but I know you have very effective ones, and I know that you have them, which is amazing. But completing the circle here, your life, you started your business about 7 years ago. And
Yeah.
for everyone listening, this is a coaching business. And how would you describe your coaching business?
Yeah, it's a great question. It really is something that changed my life. And I had started in a personal development program coaching through there and then realized I did not want to be a psychologist, but I was a psych major and the one program that had opened, this is amazing, about 10 years ago, I got a master's degree in health and wellness coaching. Believe it or not, they have degrees
Yes.
in that. Fell in love with this. And, I started, Chip, and I say this for anyone who's like, well, how do I begin? And I had like two coaching clients and two personal training clients. I do not do personal training today, but that was it. And it just was this intention. And this is where I know you and I have connected a lot for me, it's like, hey, divine spirit, consciousness of the universe of love, like use me. So I'll get out of my way. And that's part of my daily ritual is to kind of just surrender myself and literally, hey, I try to talk to this beautiful energy like it's a BFF, like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
here. Please let me know because I don't want to miss it. So like make it clear what you want me to do, how you want me to serve. And I kept hearing this over and over again. So with coaching, I do one-on-one coaching. I certify people to become coaches now. Been teaching it at Georgetown University. And I
That's awesome.
love the transformation piece. It's just, it changed my life. And it's, to me, it's like, you could have a doctor prescribe a medication, acupuncture. I think coaching is in the same healing vernacular.
Yeah. And and it sounds like from the two coaching clients and two uh, folks that you help with physical fitness and all of that, that it's blown up. Right? Is that
It's
safe to say?
yeah, I I've started to track it. Actually, you're on I have a vision board on the back as a mind map of all these beautiful souls and opportunities that have come into my just blossomed since I said yes. And one of them was starting with Hal, reaching out to him. I didn't even know him. I just loved his book and I was writing mine and he didn't even know me. And he was so gracious. He said he would write a beautiful note, a testimonial. And that led to him coming to my area in Maryland to speak. I mean, he doesn't even live over here.
Oh,
And then and I write all of these things down as they blossom. And it's funny because Chip, when we met, I remember I was like, soul brother, and I have it on there. I've tracked it because I don't want to miss, it's like a tapestry. The back is all knots and it looks funny, but you flip it and it's this gorgeous pattern. And it is expanded and keeps expanding. I mean, I'm getting chills. I just, for me, it's about, being of service, making an impact and helping people to truly get, and we do not have to be stuck in our conditions or beliefs or thoughts, any of that, none of it. And so it's just been, I mean, I sometimes have to pinch myself like, hold on, I'm on Chip's podcast. I just got to do X, Y, and Z. I got to connect with this person. And that's why I believe in intuition and teach it and trust it, because for me, my belief is it always is going to steer you. And when it's aligned with your heart, it's always going to steer us, not just for our highest good, but for the highest good of all those we're here to help and support. And yeah, it's beautiful to look back. And I have this mind map of it, and you're on there. You're
Yeah,
definitely
that's
on there.
awesome. Well, thank you. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm on a mind map somewhere near Washington, D.C. So
Yeah. Who
that's
knew?
cool. I did not
My
know.
cheeks
That's
hurt. My cheeks hurt, and you're on a mind map.
so this mind map, I'm just really curious about it too. You said
Yeah.
is it like it's a physical thing? It's not something you're riding on, or because you said knots in the back. So is it string
Oh,
or
that was a bad metaphor. Kind of like a
oh, gotcha.
tapestry when you flip it. You know how there's like knots and yarn. This is not
Okay.
like I'm not knitting it.
Okay.
I'm
I was gonna say that's what
writing.
I had in my head. So all right. Sorry, that's a dumb guy question.
No, not at all. No, bad metaphor, but no, it's on the back of my vision board. I've drawn it with little spokes on the wheels, and how everything is just seems to be connected. It's very cool.
So you have a vision board, and I'm just curious, like, is it the cut out pictures of magazines and your friends and things like that? So these are things that have already happened, I guess, on your vision board. And do you have things that you want to happen as well? Is that like it's all meshed together?
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Not everything on it has come into, but I also have some pretty some bigger goals, which is
Yeah.
great. They are all goals, all desires. I believe if we have the desire, there's the divine energy to match it. But I have a big, I was like, go big or go home vision board. So I have a huge
Yeah.
poster board. And then on the back is where I've just mapped out all of this incredible opportunities and beautiful people and souls and work and ways of growing. And it's neat to look at it. It's so like, wow, I can see that divine imprint in my life, and
Yeah.
saying yes to my heart, saying yes to my intuition. And hopefully that's the point for anyone listening. It's like, say yes. When you get that full yes in your body, all I can say is I keep seeing over and over again the grace, the gifts. What comes from that is just it's mind glowing. I don't really like the word
Mind
glowing
glowing.
for my
Yeah,
head. I don't want your mind to blow. So mind glowing is what I say.
that's cool. You know what I'm thinking of? This is neat. I mean, I've obviously heard of vision boards. I've seen vision boards. I've done vision boards and all of that. But it's interesting, or I should say, and it's interesting that you have the people that are already in your life and your blessings already. And that's kind of like a gratitude board.
Yes. The back of
That's so
yes. Yes,
cool.
yes, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
I love that.
I think that you're about to be in my second book, by the way. So that's cool because I have 33
Oh,
gratitude techniques, and I think a gratitude board. I mean, I'm already like thinking about it, and it's amazing. That's very cool, and just to
so
like look at
cool.
pictures and wonderful things and concentrate on that. So,
Yeah.
yep. So, and you do a miracle morning. Um, do
Yes.
you are you pretty strict like with the savers part of it, and you do the V as visualization and you look at that board during that time, or is it something else?
I love this. I
Okay.
love this question. It's funny. I've been involved with Clubhouse a little bit and helping with the Miracle Morning Room there. And
Oh, cool.
when
With
I
Brianna. Yeah.
Brianna, yeah,
Yeah.
who's my soul sister. Yeah, I always joke. I say, look, I this is so like I think for us entrepreneurs, I'm like I follow the savers, and I usually add a little of like my own flair.
Oh
So like
yeah. You have to.
I
Yep.
don't do it exactly the way I love the way Hal's outlined it. Sometimes I'll do the full hour. Sometimes I kind of play with the times. Like for me, I've learned the meditation that I do these days that's a 20-minute practice in the morning. And that's like, I really need the full 20 minutes. Visualization, I actually do it. This is interesting. I don't know if it's interesting. It's kind of weird. I actually in bed before I get up when you're in that, I don't know if it's the theta stage. I like to daydream. I like to look out the window and
Yeah.
visualize kind of in that stage. I also do I do self Reiki on myself before I get out of bed.
All right,
I
and
do
now you
it.
have to explain to this. And by the way, I don't know if I've already warned folks. I'll probably do this when I introduce you at the beginning here, but we will go woo on this. So
Yes,
yes, so
yes.
put on your woo galoshes and get ready for this because it's going to happen. So tell us about Reiki
Yeah.
because I know a little bit, but enough
Yeah.
to embarrass myself, I think.
No, no, no. It's a ancient practice of using. I was certified. There's Reiki 1, 2, and 3, but it stems. I believe it stems from Japan, if I get it right. This is an ancient practice where you basically learn to allow energy, which we all made of energy. We take energy in and out, come through your hands, and it's used for healing, for really helping with any kind of your own energy. It's really what's amazing is there are all these studies done on the powerful effects of it, even when, like, if I'm not with you in person with my hands on you, doing that kind of healing from afar. And so, one of the things when I got trained to do this, it's very gentle. I've seen people, there are a lot of Reiki practitioners. One of the things we were taught is to do this on ourselves every day, that
Interesting.
there's
So
a lot of,
healing with
yeah,
your hands through
yeah,
energy. And I'm
yeah.
wondering, is it kind of related? I mean, some evangelicals and folks like that would do faith healing kind of, is it somewhat similar? Or I'm wondering like what goes through your mind or your heart or whatever when you're doing that.
Yeah, here's the really interesting thing about Reiki is you don't have to be thinking anything.
Hmm, okay.
Once you're trained, and it's not tough, but there's a little training, it's a natural, it's kind of like we're breathing air without thinking about it. Like you can have, so one of the one I would say that everyone can do, you don't have to have any training for this. This is the most powerful one. And if I don't have time to do all 8 hand positions, hand on your heart, hand on your
Ah,
heart.
that's nice. Yeah, we've got
That's
that from the
it.
Heart Math Institute. So,
Totally. It's all
yeah,
connected. That's right. So we know just even there. So if you wake up, if that's all you get from this, hand on your heart, it's a great way to start the day.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's really cool. And uh, I want to go back to this because you said you had taught that you make a BFF of the divine spirit and the higher consciousness. I'm curious, of course, semantics and words and all of that. Is that your version of God, or is that do you call it that, or is it intertwined, or something separate? Curious. We always seem to talk about God on the podcast, by the way.
Oh
But
my God, I love it. I feel like
yes.
right now, for those listening, I'm holding a sign that says, "You have now entered the land of Wu." You have been warned. So you have
Warning,
land
disclaimer. Yeah,
warning, Wu is here, which I actually, to me, this is actually the land I live in, to be very honest, since I've been little. I think I just really denied it for a long time. And I'll tell you the truth. Yes, so God, I, for some reason, every day, a different word feels right to me. So there are times it's absolutely God. There are times it's higher power, infinite intelligence, queen, queen of the universe, king of the universe, goddess. I mean, I really feel into, a lot of times I even think about this all loving force field. And God is sort of if I'm like, when in doubt, I'll use God. But I just sometimes, for me, and I think as an empath, like I can sometimes feel that energy, and I love to,
yeah,
whatever words. And I always say, I don't believe it matters what words we use, as long, it's just, in my humble opinion, it's always there. We're all created of it. We're all made of it. It's breathing, living through me, as you, as everyone listening. For me, I've seen the difference of doing life connected, synced up, like, you plug in your phone. I've seen it when I've been synced up, and I've seen life not. And
huh.
it is, I'll say this, like every morning I start with syncing myself up. That is like, there's nothing more important for me. The few times I didn't listen or I didn't fully charge my battery.
The few times. So you do this, for lack of a better word, or maybe pun intended, you do this religiously.
I do this. It's so funny. I do this religiously. And, Chip, come from a real, I would just say, for me, to me, it's like, even there's, religion is beautiful. It's like, it's
Well, it
even, I don't
can
know,
be, yes.
can be, it's beyond, it feels to me like there's almost no attachment to any religion for me. It's really a practice of just that true essence that we all are.
Yeah,
And
I get
it
that.
comes, yeah, it just comes through. I mean, I kind of connect with so many different avenues of that. So I'm very open to learning, receiving, but for me, it's definitely this beautiful power that I like to plug myself into that wall every day because I'm able to be of greater service, frankly. And I like how I feel. I like who I am. I love what's being created. And it's a non-negotiable for me every morning. That's kind of first.
That's cool. Yep, and that's
Yeah.
the whole oxygen mask principle. Yep.
Yeah.
Serving yourself before you and especially for empaths, that's so
Yeah.
so important because otherwise we are giving from something that's very empty. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's cool. Now I am curious because I'm going to ask you about your practices and everything, obviously. So you say you plug in and
Yeah.
you connect just like your iPhone, plugging in to the power there or whatever. What
Yeah.
does that process look like? Like how do you do that in the morning? Because
Yeah.
I'm really curious.
Yeah, this is like it's so funny. When you're like do something, you're like, oh, it just sounds so weird to say it out loud, but that's cool. I'm good with it. I just would just say to anyone listening, like take what you like, leave the rest. This may not be for anybody else. It's just
Yes.
what works.
Woo
Um,
warning once again.
woo
Yes.
warning,
Woo
friends.
warning.
Woo
Okay.
warning. This is what works. Yeah, I first of all, I start I always if as long as I don't go back to sleep, I really do start with these Reiki positions for me. For me, it's saying, I'm here. I'm going to show some love to myself. I don't even have to, I don't time it. It's usually a couple minutes. There's 8 of them. So I start with this practice, very healing.
And are
There's,
you thinking anything at that time? Are you saying, I love myself or anything like that? Or is it just
I,
just practice or um,
yeah, I usually, when you say it out loud, you're like, that is what I do.
okay.
I very as a very tangible gratitude. I love sleeping. I love my bed. So I usually start with just, wow, I'm so grateful. I love this bed. I love like feel like healthy. I'm here. I start very simple. I'm usually not quite awake. So it's just this, I'm just so comfortable. I'm so grateful. Like I feel into literally, it's also lovely. You get 20 extra minutes to just kind of, I love, 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 like not getting up right away. So for
Well,
me,
that's
I'm
cool.
just
Yeah.
loving up on that. Like, wow, I just get to like be here and be grateful and feel the like comfort of a bed. I mean, it goes right into gratitude. Sometimes I will think about where my hands are, my heart. I'll send light and love. I literally picture like a golden light sometimes, but sometimes it's just, I'm just thankful to be here. I love my bed.
Yeah. And it sounds like you get good night of sleep as well then. So yeah.
Usually, yeah.
So
It's
you
just,
have good sleep
gratitude.
hygiene practices and you go to bed early or um, do you have like a
Working on
chili
it.
pad or anything like that? Because I have a chili pad and I love that sucker.
Oh, geez, I need a chili pad. No, I do have better hygiene. My husband is somebody who's like 10 o'clock needs to go to bed. He gets up very early. So
Yeah.
we're working on that. We're
It's only
working on
been, I
that.
don't know, yeah, a decade or so, but I'm
Yeah,
getting there.
I'm getting there. Right. It's taken 10 years, but soon I'll be there. Yeah, I do often, I have white noise. I'll listen to something sometimes inspirational or beautiful meditation music. I do thankfully usually sleep well, but I wake up with this gratitude. I try to start with those hand positions and those Reiki. If I don't have a lot of time, I'll just go in my heart.
Yeah.
I often after that will just give myself a moment. So I kind of do these not in the right order, but I'll look out the window. I love to I can usually see the trees and I just try to connect right away with nature, with Mother Nature. I do feel this kind of essence. For me, it feels like this very divine feminine essence. And I'll start to visualize just something that I know in that day is happening or what I want to have happen. But oftentimes I start with just connecting with the trees. I'm a
This is
big
you
nature girl,
standing looking outside or you actually
laying
being
down.
outside or what?
This is actually before I even get out of bed after
Oh, gotcha.
Reiki.
Okay.
I'll look outside. So
Oh,
for me, I
gotcha.
like to ease out of the pool. I like to ease out of bed. I do not like to jump right out. That's not me. Um, so that's the beginning. And then I go into my meditation. I do a 20-minute transcendental meditation that works for me. Um,
And you won't
and
tell us what
then
your mantra is.
Right. I cannot tell you what my mantra is. No, I
or we'll
can't.
die.
You'll
I always thought that
die.
was really interesting.
So funny. Do you know the reason why you can't share it? Because I
I
didn't understand this. And then I'm like,
I know
oh,
the marketing reason, but yes, go ahead.
right. Well, the truth is, and I actually think there's something to this. It's like you don't want to have any relationship or attachment or connection with it because it's only used for meditation. So if you share it, like you don't want to have any like, oh, kind of like if I were to just say like, oh, like I might think about the yoga teacher who says om differently than I do. You want to like really, you know
Hmm.
what the truth is, whatevs. It just works.
Yeah.
I just know that quiets my mind the F down. Nothing else but that like that kind of meditation really works. I've tried a lot.
Gotcha.
So that my little inner mantra that maybe I'll tell you like maybe it'll be like a little secret one day, just you and I when we're not on. Be like,
That's
here it
funny.
is. Here it is,
Yeah.
Chip. I'll like video it to you. And you'll be
Okay.
like, what are you doing? What is that Sanskrit? Well, now you know.
That's
Um,
cool. Well, I say the word aham when I'm doing that type of meditation. I usually do
yeah.
that in the afternoon. AHAM, which is I am, I guess in
Yeah.
Sanskrit or whatever. But that was in Emily Fletcher's course, for Ziva
Yes.
meditation, and she mentioned that, and I just use it, and I don't attach it to anyone else. I mean, it just feels right when I do it.
It's
So
you're doing
yes,
well with the non-attachment. I probably
yeah,
have more attachment stuff. I don't know what it is, but yeah, that's awesome. No, I love, love, love. It's really it grounds me and I go right into that. And I have a set of I actually have started my own, this is so me, like start my own prayer book. No prayer book is good enough. I had to like create my own prayer book. So I have a prayer book with my own prayers, offerings, and I'll often read through that. Or I have a little
interesting. I
deck.
gotta
I
see
have a
that's something you
yeah.
wrote in or typed out or actually published or what?
No, it's not. I bought a cute little bullet journal. I bought a ton of markers. It was really a reason to get gel pens that are
Yeah.
glittery. That was the reason. And I decided I want to write the prayers that speak to me. And so I have a card I'm looking at and I pull that up and then I'll bring my book in and it has doodles and I draw in it. It kind of looks like the cosmic journal that
Yeah.
Yannick Silver did. It looks like
Okay.
that a little
Yeah.
bit
I
side.
gotcha. With lots of doodles. I
Lots of
usually
doodles.
draw in mine as well. I mean, I go through like a one of these a month. So hey, I write in a lot of it
Wow.
and I write it
Wow.
down. And typically, um, everyone will get sick of me talking about it, but I do a God bookend with what I
Oh,
do. And it just starts with a prayer and it ends with a download, which is like the good
oh,
bookend with God. And then the download is the cool part. It's
oh, I
what
love
yeah.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's like what you said, because you just said earlier about the
Yeah.
divine consciousness and hey, what do you want me to be on my
Yeah.
mind or my heart or don't let me miss this or whatever. And that's kind of the conversation that I try and have
Yeah.
every day. And just so you know, the
Mm.
person listening to this right now has been wooified somewhat. And I don't think I've ever called it woo, but I talk about my conversations with God all the time. So there you
Oh,
go.
awesome.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yay. We've
Yeah.
wooed. Everyone is wooed over with our
Yes. But
our woo
I'm
land.
curious about your prayers though. Like, is there anything that you can share? It doesn't have to be specific if you don't want to, but I'd
Yeah.
like that idea of just having them written down.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I do something after a little, not every morning, but especially on the weekends, I have decks of cards, my own deck and other decks, and I'll pick one
Yeah.
and then I'll do some writing. But the prayers too that I'll share is actually someone I'd interviewed, and I was reminded that we every morning have 500 million new cells every morning,
Oh wow.
500
Yeah.
million. And my prayers is so funny. This is so me. I created like a welcome party for them. Like I
That's
like a
cool. Yeah.
like a hey, welcome. You guys are so invited to like light up all the other cells and like celebrate. I've written this out a little more prayer form, but
Celebrate.
my
Badoops.
cell.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. All right.
It's
Mind
a
blown again.
celebration.
That's so good. Now I'm like all the way. Okay. I'm like, after
Got to
this, I have to
trademark
write.
that and put it in
That
your
is
in your
so
coaching. Yeah.
good, Chip. I'll be like, this is the Chip celebration series. You heard it here, folks, first. Yeah, it's a celebration. It's a celebration. I literally thank all these cells for just being here. I mean, we didn't do anything to, I did nothing to get them. I did nothing but, and really there are times I'm blown away by, I'm just blown away by what is truly what we're gifted every day. And so I love that
That's
it's so
very cool.
tangible. That is
Yeah.
so tangible. The other prayer I love is I am open and willing to receive um, all of the answers to my prayers. So
Yes. You
the
celebrate
receiving,
receiving them? Okay.
I'm open and willing to
Oh,
receive the
open and
answers to my
willing. Okay.
prayers. Yeah, open and willing. Some of us, especially, I think probably men too, sometimes for women, I know for me, receiving, I'm very good. I love giving, but that learning to receive and receive graciously and be open to that. And that's one. I have many, many others, but I love kind of welcoming those new selves. I love feeling like, whoa, look at like that's abundance beyond, there's no
Yeah.
price tag on that, you know?
And it's so cool. And I love that you have this gratitude in the morning already because
Yeah.
I would say, and this is very high compliment here. Okay, this is very high praise coming from me that your
Okay.
gratitude practice in the morning rivals mine. And that's
Woo!
yeah, yeah. And
That's okay.
I'm writing a book on the gratitude practice, so that's
Oh
that's
God.
that's pretty good. And I like to think that I'm writing from a place of doing it, knowing it, and feeling that gratitude. And we can compare a few notes, but I'll tell you this is kind of cool because I'm going to try some of these, like your gratitude
Oh,
board and the laying in bed and doing Reiki.
Ricky. Yeah.
Reiki, yep. I will try that. Although I'm sure my hand positions won't be right or anything, but just placing them on my heart is good. But
Yeah.
this is one that you'll like. Okay, and I don't think I've ever shared this with you. I don't think we talked
Oh.
about this in the last podcast, but I call this the Wayne Dyer. Okay, and
Oh.
if you've watched the movie The Shift, I watched that
Yes.
and there was a real interesting story about that. But I'll just go ahead and tell you because we're in the woo land anyways, and I don't know if I'll get another chance at this. But I was watching that video one day when I was feeling really sick, and I was just didn't go to work, laying in my room, and my grandfather, who is a Baptist minister, but don't hold that against him. He is very warm-hearted and beautiful, and he wasn't really the sinners in the hands of an angry God kind of guy.
Yeah.
Had a lot of love for everybody, really godlike, godlike
Mm,
person. Um, and he had just passed. And I was watching this Wayne Dyer movie, and like I got this crazy strong feeling that he was just sitting next to me. And
mm,
that was just so weird that it happened then. But and maybe I was so sick I was, having hallucinations or delusions or whatever, but it was just really strong. But going back to the movie, anyways, I remember that because the very first scene of this movie, and by the way, it's available on YouTube for free. It's
yeah.
Wayne Dyer, The Shift, and if you don't listen to Wayne Dyer or watch him or whatever, he was a gift, national
Oh yeah.
treasure, really great
Mm.
guy. And by the way, I'll say this too: I talked with one of his very good friends at a conference. Jill LaMarche is one of his dear friends, and they were out together. Do you know Jill? I
I
don't know
know
if
of
you.
Jill. That's so funny.
Okay.
I know the name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was good friends with Wayne, and he told me that Wayne was exactly how he appeared, on stage and behind the scenes and all of that. And actually, one of my other friends met him as well in a yoga class of all places in Florida, which was pretty interesting because my friend
Mm,
was doing the yoga class, and in the back was Wayne Dyer just watching him, and they talked together. And he's like, "Hey, how are you doing, Alex?" And knew his name and all, which is kind of funny.
mm.
But anyways, I'm on
Wow.
tangents. So getting back to the movie for the third time here, uh, the first scene of that movie is Wayne Dyer waking up in the dark, and he liked to light a candle or whatever, but it has him waking up in the wee hours in the morning, and he routinely woke up 3 or 4 a.m. and he puts his feet on the carpet and kind of rubs his little toes on they weren't little toes, they were decent sized toes, and he rubs them on the carpet, and he just looks up with his eyes closed and he says, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And that's
Wow.
the first thing that he does. And that's what I call the Wayne Dyer. And that's just feeling all of
Mm,
that love and that energy. And um, and honestly, I do mine outside typically. I'll get up and go outside barefoot in the grass,
mm,
and it's either dark and there's stars or the sun is just coming up or whatever, depending on time of year. And I'll throw my hands up in the air like I just don't care. and I'm actually caring tremendously, and throw them up and just say thank you, thank you, thank you, and just feel it, and it's awesome.
Mm,
And the reason I
beautiful.
thought of that too is because you wake up and it's the first thing on your mind is this gratitude.
Yeah,
And that shapes the whole day. I mean, it sets the tone for the whole day like you would not believe. And it's so simple, and it can just be a few seconds of just acknowledging and being grateful. And to me, that just kind of puts up your gratitude antenna for the whole day, and you start feeling it. And it's a wonderful way to wake up. So
totally.
yep. So I'm going to do that, and maybe I'll do Wayne Dyer while I'm holding my heart and Reikiing, and
Yes.
yes.
Reikiing and rain diarying. And oh my God, I love it. That was one of my favorite parts of the film. I remember that. And I love that you do that outside. I would love to say I do it outside, but it's like it does take a while to get out of bed. I'm like, yeah, by that
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
to be
Don't
honest.
ruin what works, man. If it works, then that's awesome. And actually, you saying taking 20 minutes to wake up, that sounds good too. And
Yeah. Woo.
and sometimes I do this as well. I've been sending text messages to my family members when I wake up, the first thing, and
Mm,
I say do the thank you and all of that, but then I'll do that the family member texts, and I heard someone say this,
mm,
that they like to acknowledge, it was Brian Johnson of Optimize Me, um,
mm,
and he just liked to show love to his family first thing. So he didn't do text messages, but he wakes up and kisses his wife on her cheek or whatever, and then goes in and rubs his son's head.
mm.
Just doing that in the early wee hours of the morning. So like the first thing, he's just showing love, which I thought was beautiful. But I also don't want to get axe murdered by my ladies. So for those three things, I won't wake them up. I'll just send them the
Right.
text. So it's their first thing. But for my boy, I'll go in and cover him and kiss him on his head, and he doesn't wake
Mm.
up. So that's fine. So that's kind of been added, maybe, I don't know, 4 months ago or so, and that's been pretty awesome too.
So
But
beautiful. Oh, I
yeah,
love that.
yeah,
I
I
I
can't help but
love,
talk about mine when you mention yours, because I mean this is all such wonderful stuff. So
yeah, so
yeah,
great. Well, and it's funny, when you look at the whole like the woo thing, I mean, of course I'm laughing, but it's like
yeah,
I got to say, woo, whatever it is, it feels a lot better to be in this woo place or to be doing this. I've a couple times when I've didn't do my full practice or I didn't, it's like again, it's like trying to vacuum the carpet without plugging it in, and
yeah.
it's not going to work. I'm just telling you now for those who've never done that, like don't try that. Um, I think the last piece for me, I have a little altar that I've created. I'm looking at it right now, and it has a picture of my grandparents and some beautiful things on it. And I usually like to just kind of end by, I love child's pose in yoga. It's my favorite pose where you're basically doing
Loved
nothing but you're
child pose. All right.
just head
See,
on the
I've done
floor.
yoga, but I'm usually in too much pain to like really
Oh,
take all of that. I know the oh shoot, baby
Shavasana.
pose. No, just the one where
Oh,
you rest and you kind of lay down like that or whatever. Because I
yes,
have
child's pose.
that is
That's it.
child. Okay. Oh, so
Yeah.
so you said love child, or didn't you, or loving
Oh,
pose or loving
oh, I
child?
said I love child's pose. You're
Oh,
right. It's
gotcha.
not
Okay.
love
So I
child.
gotcha.
Wonder what love child pose is.
Yeah, that's a little, that might be a little kinky. I don't know. So
That might be
like,
different. Yeah,
yeah,
it's not
flower
not
child
not
or
this flower
anyway.
child.
Yeah.
Right. For me, I like to there's some variations of what I do, but I try to end with that kind of just forehead to the floor, a big old like, you know what, God, higher power, divine mother, father. I usually say divine mother, father,
You
great
have like
spirit.
20 names for that. So that's good.
This energy love is like whatevs, Jules. I just feel like they're like, yep, we answered all of them. I mean, it's just
Call
like
me anything you want. Just don't
call
call me late
me.
to lunch. Yeah.
Yeah, just call me, please. Just call me because I'm here. I like to like just say like, hey, I'm surrendering. It's for me. That's kind of the way I like to end is like, I'm surrendering me, any ego, any fear, like just worry, like whatever, just use me. Cause my thing is for all of us, for me, so I like want to be, I didn't just come here. I mean, I did come here to have fun. That's, we're having fun right now, but I really came here to I think for all of us listening, if you're listening, I'm sure you also feel like you want to make an impact. I want to be, help out, be of service, be a good
Yeah.
friend, and so I just ask at the end, I'm like, please help me to do that. And it's not going to be perfect, but to the best of my ability, hear you, follow you, listen to you, because that to me, that's the divine will. That's the will I want to follow. Julie's will would have me eating 5 cakes a day. I'll just
Oh,
tell you.
gotcha. That's
So
neat.
it's like, yeah, turning it over.
Yep, that's a really wonderful thing. And I'm really curious about this, like this just philosophical question. And religion
Yeah.
would call it sin. But if you're doing
Mm.
something that you think is wrong, like let's say you're eating 5 cakes, do you consider that a sin? And does God hate that or not like that? Or what do you think?
All right. Now we are in the 100-foot woo ocean. We're going deep, guys. Put on your snorkeling. Like we're going deep because
It was galoshes, now it's scuba gear. Yes.
we've got, well, I just heard this, like, I don't know if they really want to hear what she thinks. It's definitely very open kind of. I'll just share, this is the way I look at it. Of course, disclaimer, like I don't, no one else has to see it this way. This is
Oh
just
no,
what
they
I see
have
it.
to, or they're
Yeah,
gonna
you
burn.
have to see
Yeah.
it. Exactly.
Okay.
I truly, and I'm a big fan of Conversations with God. Actually,
Yes.
love that book, love that work. And I really feel aligned with what is said there. And to kind of paraphrase, I actually, the word sin to me, I forget, he actually goes into this, or they go into this.
Yeah.
To me, it's anytime I am not honoring the divine that is in me or in another person, is to me,
Nice.
it's a
Yeah.
living, breathing thing. And this is going to be radical, but I will just say this is my belief. I do not believe this God force essence is judging
Yeah.
me or any. I think that's a human quality we put on it. I see this as a like love force that needs nothing, requires nothing, literally is the I am presence of love, of source energy. And so I am very aware that for me, and this is where I think we get into like, how do you want to live? What values are important?
Yeah.
Integrity, being kind, being in my heart, and we're human. I'm not perfect, but I kind of see it like, yeah, I did so much attacking of myself. Like, so I have this autoimmune condition. To me, that's an outward rep or an inner replication of what I did to myself. Not, and I don't judge it,
Yeah.
but I do think years of attacking myself in part led to this self-attacking, and it can also heal, and it is, and I am healing it. But yeah, the sin to me, and the word I would probably use is it's just, where am I in relation to what is my intention? And if my
Gotcha.
intention is to be loving and this is not always easy, especially with people of different opinions or differing values. However, this love force to me is loving no matter what and doesn't
Yeah.
judge. So I just try to be as close to that as I can be. And that is enough to work on for the rest of my life, that I swear to you, like, I don't need to judge anybody else. I got enough to work on here. But yeah, when I sometimes don't eat in the best way for my body, or I drink a lot, but let's say I drank too much, or just, I don't know if I see it as a sin, but I see it as it's not in alignment with
There you go.
honoring
Wow.
the sacred
I
temple I live in. That's it. It's not in
I
alignment.
feel
That's
that
how I look at it. Yeah.
in out of alignment with intention.
Yeah.
That kind of a
Yeah.
way of putting it. That's so cool. As
Yeah.
I hear the phrase often, love the sinner, hate the sin. And
Mm,
I don't
yeah.
know that, just again, getting in woo woo, and I'm not pushing this belief on anyone else. I don't know
Yeah.
that the God that I believe in is capable of hate or does
Yeah.
hate. Yeah.
Absolutely with you. 100%.
So
It's a human, well, my belief is a human. I don't believe God and hate. I don't even think it doesn't, in love, in that force field. It's like, it can't even, when you shine light, it's like there is no darkness when you have full light. And I just see hate is, actually, I think I've heard it said hate is kind of the, it's the flip side of love. Um, it's not the absence of love.
yeah,
It's like the
because
flip
apathy
of
is
it.
worse than hate. Yeah. And I've
Yeah,
heard
yeah,
that
yeah.
mentioned many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I feel the same way.
Yeah, and
Totally.
us humans have always been putting human-like features on God. I mean, the Greeks did it, and the Romans did it, and all of that, and they
Yeah.
made gods jealous, and turning into fish, and and fooling people, and all of that, and yeah, it was like
Yeah.
soap opera back then. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of interesting. So that's very cool. And I'm wondering if we're going to go even deeper because now we're in
Yeah.
scuba gear, and then we're going to need
Yeah.
like one of those deep dive submarines or something next.
Yeah.
So
We can go as deep. This is one
yeah,
of my favorite topics. I just, and it's interesting, the like little diplomat people pleaser in me, it comes up and
yeah.
it's like, oh, I know not everyone, it's okay. It's really, I, well, all, I actually, how do I say this? All of us to me are individuated expressions of this divine force energy of love. So
Wow, that's
all,
a good way
it's
of
like
putting it.
we just all have our own lens of it. I actually think it's all part of it. There's no right or wrong, which for some it's like, well, how can you? I actually think there's validity in all religions and all the way we interpret this force, love. I just know for me, I don't think it has human qualities. In the sense of judging. I don't think
Yeah,
it's judging me. I think it's here to just guide me and love me. It's me. Am I allowing that in? Am I listening? Am I tapping in? Am I getting in my way? And that's the piece I have to be careful of, is I can be really judgmental of myself. um, and
mm.
that doesn't work so well.
But I bet you're not that judgmental for other people.
Not so much usually. I tend to invert it in me. And when I see it, it's actually a practice that I'm learning to just spot it. And frankly, the reframe is like, I'm learning. I'm just here to learn and grow. Like, you know what? We don't yell at toddlers when they fall over 500 times. Like,
Well, speak for
I don't know.
yourself. So no,
Yeah. Yeah. Screamed at my daughter. She couldn't
get
walk.
up,
And
kid.
yeah, get up. What are you doing? But it's like, I think our species is, and I think this was in Conversations with God. I mean, oh
Yeah.
boy, I don't, he talks about actually the new book, the God solution, or the God dilemma, talks about how we think we're so evolved, but really we're all the species. We're probably in like third grade. So I'm like, all right, I'm doing pretty well for third grade, I guess. I want to do more, but anyhow, but yeah, we can go as deep as you want. I love this
That's
conversation.
cool. Okay, well here's one of the things that I was thinking of. Well, two things.
Okay.
First of all, that's wonderful that you don't have the judgment, or you say no, this is for me and it's not necessarily for other people.
Yes.
I've had a big talk with God about that, and it's pretty interesting because and just going real deep in dreams and the God bookends and meditations or whatever, and the message that I got was, you know what, I'm God, and there's enough of me for everyone, and everyone can have their belief about me, and all of them can be true because I'm God. All right, so cut your chatter out because
I
it's
love
fine.
it.
Don't judge other people. So that's number one. And God did say, okay, here's how it is, and told me all of that. But the disclaimer
Yeah.
was, that it's cool if other people believe differently. That's fine. We're not going to
Yeah. I
start
love
any
it.
crusades or kill anybody or whatever for
Yeah.
for thinking differently. Which is amazing that humans actually do that. But anyways,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
happens. And this part is woo woo. And I don't think I've ever discussed this with anybody, although I've written about it and I've thought about it, and it's just a theory because I get these theories and I just write them down in my journal and I think about them and I come back to them every now and then.
Oh,
And okay, everyone says the law of attraction, and kind of believes in that or whatever. And The Secret talked about that. And then you have the practical business people that say that's bunk because it's not just thinking about it or thinking my friend will call or whatever. It's
yeah.
actually doing something or putting yourself in a position or whatever. And I think that the law of attraction is misnamed. And I think that gives us a really flawed view of it. And what I think it is a law of resonance.
Mm,
And
mm.
we're all on different vibrations, so to speak. Like literally, as you said earlier, we're all energy, and energy, the only thing energy is, if you get down to the subatomic, quantum physics type of stuff, is just energy. That's all everything
Yeah.
is. And and all of our energy is vibrating at a different frequency. And
Yep.
when you hit the frequency with someone, it's a resonance, and you're vibrating in the same frequency, and that's what it is. And
Yeah.
if you're in a life that you deserve and that you love, then that is you hitting resonance in life.
Yep.
And if you meet someone in Cleveland and like have a conversation and like go off the deep end because you're like thinking the same way, all of that's resonance. And when you were talking about sin a little bit earlier, or you didn't call it sin, I said, is that a sin or whatever? And you said it's out of intention. And what that is just misaligned resonance.
Yeah.
And yeah, because you have your perfect action, which would resonate and sound like a wonderful, ding, which would be wonderful. Or if they're misaligned, it sounds like static, and that's
Yeah.
kind of how I think maybe it is, kind of in the physical subatomic way. So there it is, the law of resonance. And
Love
I
it.
think this is the first time I've mentioned that publicly anywhere. So there you go. And
Woo!
yeah,
I
so now
love
that
it.
was the submarine of woo. So
I'm like, great, let's stay here. And
yeah.
you know what I'm like, we're in my like happy place. Are you kidding? I'm like, and I'm wearing these big earmuff, like head, earphones. I'm
Yes.
like, I feel like I'm in the water with you. It
And
reminds
and they're
me of what
pink,
we just,
white and pink, by the way, which is really cool. So everyone can get a visual. Yes.
I know
On my podcast, I do put a picture of you on it. So you can look at that picture and then imagine big white earphones with little pink stripes on it. So
oh gosh. I'm like, of all things, yeah. I,
yes.
well, I'll tell you this, what actually it reminded me of, and there's a couple, books that get into this. There's the Dr. Emoto study of water, and I actually think music and sound is very
Dr.
connected to
Moto.
what
Okay.
the study of water, where he looked at water under a microscope when you yell at it versus when you
Oh
say
yeah.
kind things to it. And you can see geometrically, like it gets into daggers when you yell at it. It looks like a
Yeah.
snowflake. So we see this. Lynn McTaggart, who wrote the what's it called? I think the intention experiment. She has studied what you're saying with plants, with energy. Um, this is real. And I think of it, Chip, like we're all unique little radio stations. We're all vibrating.
Yeah.
And it's like when you get the radio station and you're in the right area, you can hear it. And I love that, the law of resonance. I love it. And that takes out the whole worthiness thing, and that like
Yeah.
we all have resonance. It's just, are you in proximity to what you want to resonate with?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's beautiful. I haven't heard that said in that way. And my whole body was like a tuning fork. I'm like, yep,
See,
yes.
you resonated with that. So there it
I
is.
resonated. I did. I was like, do I say that? Because I literally feel like a fork that just was like, ding, like it
Yeah.
totally, yeah.
And that's cool. And to go back to your metaphor, because I've heard that, which is really cool, is the broadcast. So the broadcast is it's broadcast over every single channel, but you have your own particular frequency and your own particular zone of resonance where it happens. And what you mentioned about self-improvements and about, taking this out to practical levels, we have imposter syndrome or something like that. And that means that we are not resonating with where we are in life. And yeah,
Yes.
and that's kind of interesting. And the ways to do it, like people will say, well, build up your confidence and just do it scared or whatever until you're not scared, run towards your fear. All of that is adjusting the resonance, of where you're at and being able to do it.
Yes.
So
Yes. Can I add one little thought that's coming to me? I'm curious what you think about this,
no
if
way.
that's
No.
okay.
Uh-uh.
Nope, we're done.
Yeah.
We're out of the wheel.
Yeah.
We're
Sorry.
sorry.
Okay. And that was Julie Reisler, everyone. So, no.
That's it. We're done. Close shop. Well, it's interesting because I was thinking, the missing ingredient often when people think of what is known as law of attraction, or now as you've coined, and I like even better, I think, law of resonance. There's the thinking and the doing, and what we're forgetting, and often the piece, even with affirmations, is okay, but we have an emotional guidance system. We have emotions, and that is so crucial to how you're going to be magnifying your energy, your resonance. And so, if I'm saying these affirmations, and I know you've talked about this, Hal with Miracle Morning has talked about this, you've got to get that resonance emotionally in your body. You got to feel that. And the imposter syndrome, it's so funny. It's actually I'm writing my next book right now, which call me crazy because it's a lot of work, but I was like, no, I need to write this next one. And it's all on overcoming imposter syndrome. It's a whole
Is
thing.
the book isn't called Call Me Crazy, is it?
It's not,
Because that
it
would
could
be
be.
awesome. Yeah.
That's my third book. No, it's called
Here
Who
I
Does She
am.
Think
Call
She
me
Is?
crazy. Yeah.
Call me crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who sings that? Like
Oh,
Kylie or
Callie Ray or something.
oh, we're
This is
so oh my God,
I
my
love that
daughter.
song, Call Me Maybe. I actually love that. And I'm a guy and I
Yeah,
admit that. It's a catchy song.
it's
So
okay. We're in
it's
the woo deep under. I actually still like White Snake. So you know what? You like
nice.
that
Here I
song?
go again.
Yeah,
And is
heard
this
it this
love? Yeah.
yeah.
That's excellent. I watched that video the other day. My family was in the living room. No one was watching TV, and I just turned it on to 80s videos,
Nice.
just to like kind of show my daughters like, hey, this is how they used to make videos. And here comes a
Yeah,
horse out of the fog for no reason at all, you know?
exactly. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Or Take On Me by Aha, where he comes out of the
Yeah.
picture. It's
Yes, that
good
was a great
stuff.
video.
I
Yes.
know. I watch those. I know. Pour Some Sugar on Me. I love all those. Are you kidding?
Yes, absolutely. Pour Some
Yeah, we could
Sugar
just,
on Me. A story to that. I was in 10th grade when that song came out, and I
oh
was
my gosh.
turning it up and cranking it and dancing in my room like crazy, like cleaning it up and just dancing and everything, and like
Nice.
getting into it, singing, full, neck straining kind of singing kind of stuff. And my Marine dad, I look over and he's had the door open for I don't know how long, and he's just watching me just like laughing his head off. So that's
Oh my
my Pour Some
gosh.
Sugar on Me story, which is pretty interesting.
We're in
Yes.
confession now. Now we're in the confession of Woo.
Yes. Yes, we are. Yes.
I love
Julie,
I
please
still like Aerosmith.
tell us your tell us your misaligned intention to woo, please.
Oh my gosh. Now I'm like, what? I don't even know if I remember. That's hilarious. What was I going to say? What were you?
Okay, we were talking
What?
about me dancing to Pour Some Sugar on Me. Before
Oh,
that, Take On
prior.
Me,
Yeah.
which I've sang at karaoke before. I don't usually recommend it,
It's
but I won the
hilarious. Oh,
competition that night, so that was pretty cool because the other
oh
guy
my
had to sing
gosh.
it too. It's one of those things where, all right, we're going to play a song and y'all have to sing it, and the crowd decides who's the best, and yeah,
Hilarious. Oh my God.
and
This is so funny.
the secret
Oh,
to that.
yes.
Yes, come on back. Tell
That's
us what it
right. The
is.
Call Me Maybe. And I was saying the book. Oh, right. The book
Yes,
is
call me crazy.
not Call Me Crazy, although I could write that book also.
But it's imposter
But
syndrome. Yes.
yeah, it's called Who Does She Think She Is?
Oh,
And
nice. That is an
it's
awesome title.
really well, and of course for men too, or if you feel she, but the point is, especially being female, I can speak it from a female voice, but for many of us, male, female, whatever, there is that, well, who do I think I am? And it's if you get stuck there, you're gonna miss like who you're supposed to be here. But
Yeah.
it's a real thing. And the resonance, I love what you said, the law of resonance, because it's a very different way of looking at it. Actually, we talked earlier about not saying your mantra because you have attachment to it. Like resonance there's no like attachment or no good or bad. It just is. You're in
Yeah.
resonance or you're not. And to be honest, the marriage I was in, and this was very hard to say because the people in that lovely family, I don't think speak energy like this. So to say we're just not in resonance, like made me sound absolutely nuts. But that is
Yeah.
truly what happened. And so it happens sometimes, but it really is. I love that. The law of resonance. I love the way you said that.
Well, thank
Powerful.
you. Something I'm thinking of too. This is pretty interesting because before I can speak from my point of view, and I said, I used to be ashamed of crying and having this emotion and being an empath and all of that, and now I'm like, here I am, world. Hey, I'll cry on a podcast. You just watch me; it'll happen.
That's
And
awesome.
I don't care, and maybe I don't know if some of the guy friends like listen and give me a hard time about it or something. Maybe I'll feel a twinge, but probably not even then. I'll be like, well, dude, that's me. That's fine. And I think that goes back to our very first conversation when you were talking about intuition and not loving yourself enough to honor the intuition. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's kind of like if you love yourself, you are who you are, and that's just it. And
Yeah.
just for you, wear your woo on your sleeve. That's cool. I mean, that's, and if people don't like it, that's cool. They don't resonate with you, then that's fine because you have plenty of people who do. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure I told my daughters this at some point because I wrote a 700-page book of advice for my kids.
Love it.
But um, if you're pretending to be someone else to get people to like you, then they're not liking they're liking what you're pretending to be. And it's the same
Yep.
thing with adults. I mean, we're all yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I heard someone say this recently, like everyone in business is a middle schooler anyways. So
That's
it's
so good.
kind of interesting. Yeah. And yeah, we all are kind of like that in life, and we're scared to like really open up. And I think that is a self-worth issue and an imposter syndrome kind of thing. And everyone
Yeah.
has to be cool, too cool to dance or sing or whatever. Um, so there's got to be some of that, and that's definitely an evolution to go from scared and playing it cool and not saying what you think and all of that to loving
Yeah.
yourself, to listen to the intuition, which we're going to talk about, I hope, and just being you.
Love
All
it.
right, I'm
Yeah.
off my soapbox now.
I love it. Wow. Tell me if we're still, I have my scuba gear still on, so I'm good to stay down a little longer. I mean, it's still here. This is, as I said, my happy place.
Yep. And just say, because you mentioned this, and I love that. Who do you think she is? Wait.
Yeah. Who
Okay.
does she think she is? Yeah,
Who
of
does
course.
she think she is? Um, any overarching thought to that, or like what's up with that? Is it self-love, or is it many other things?
Yeah. And, I'm like, in the like beginning of designing it, and but I've actually I did interview quite a few very well-known successful women. I wanted to really show that this is not. I think we often think we're the only one who feels that way, and I mean it was just amazing. Some women you would not believe have felt that
Yeah.
because I think it's, look, as human beings there's this desire to be liked and accepted, and sometimes of course this is getting into intuition, but there's a part of you that wants to express. And I think it's very natural. It's natural to be like, who, me? Like, how am I going to do like that? That can come up. The thing for me is now having moved past that, not all the time, but often, um, the difference is getting to see that's a fear, that's a story versus, that's not the essence of you. And it's something that, I lived in that world for so long of like, well, I don't know, I didn't have like an Ivy League education. I didn't have like, who do I think I am to say something? And the truth is, if you go back to the law of resonance, like who are you resonating with? What feels true to you? We're never going to all feel the same way, or like trying to compare yourself to somebody else and your accomplishments to somebody else, because it can come out in, who does she think she is, like, comparing yourself or putting someone down. Or I always think of Lady Gaga when she wore that meat dress. Literally, her dress was made of like bacon, and I was like, go with your badass self, girl. Like, I wouldn't be caught dead in a dress with meat, but good for you. And
No,
she's
I was just
somebody.
thinking bacon.
Bacon. Right. I was like, that's yummy. Like, you're just wasting a lot of bacon. I hope you're going to eat that or do something with it. Yeah. But like that takes to really step out like that. You know, I, I, I think you have two parts to it. I think there's either the like looking at yourself and not feeling good enough, and that's self doubt. Then there's the crab in the bucket syndrome where,
Yeah.
the crab that's trying to reach out is pulled down by the other crabs. And it's just out of comparison and not feeling good enough. And I think all of it stems in that, not trusting yourself, not feeling good enough, not, needing to feel like, feeling that self-doubt, and needing that accolades, or, really self-attacking. For me, that led to a health crisis. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm more curious, who do you feel you are? Not who do you think you are? Who do you feel you are? Who do you feel that you are in this world? So I talk a lot about how to redefine, how to look at this.
Nice. And here's what I'm wondering, because we talked about this a few times now, and that is when we said um, imposter syndrome, and that we don't love ourselves enough to imagine ourselves in that spot, or not listening to
Yeah.
our intuition might be a self-worth issue, and loving ourselves for that. And uh, and what I want to know, because I've heard some of this on your podcast, but how do you go about loving yourself more and feeling better about yourself? Like, do you have specific techniques that you can share with us, or things that you can
Yeah.
let our lovely chip chat audience in on?
Yeah. That is, we're still down in the depths. I
Yes,
like it. I'm
definitely,
like, good.
because loving ourselves is not something that guys especially talk about. And I would say that
Yeah.
females maybe not either, but it's probably even less accepted for guys.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look, I think we talked a little bit about the morning practice and routine. I absolutely think, look, think about it. You, whoever is listening, you and you, Chip, and myself, we are with ourselves. I'm with myself the rest of my life. The most
Yeah.
important relationship is going to be with you and you and you. You live in your body. You live in this space. So that the most important relationship is between you and you is really the way I look at it, between me and myself. And I think of it as me and my greater self, my higher self, that part of me that is always connected to divine source energy, to God, always.
Yeah.
And I think, it's a relationship. So how do we expand a relationship? If you want to have more love, you've got to be loving. We treat others how to treat it. We treat others how to treat us, right? We teach them. We teach others how to treat us. And I think it's the same thing. You teach yourself how to be treated, and our
Yes.
subconscious is listening at all times. I didn't really say that well, but I think you got it.
Yeah, yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. Yeah, completely. You
Yeah.
teach yourself how
Yeah.
to treat yourself. Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you.
and like
Much.
you can
Yeah.
accept, if you accept you being mean to yourself and tearing yourself down and self criticizing and
Yeah.
um, bad self talk and comparison and all of that. If you allow that, then it
Yeah.
continues. Yeah, and if you don't allow
Exactly.
it, yeah, you can fix it.
For me, the way it showed up, and this might be others too, and I'm saying it this way because I don't know that it's talked about in this way, is I abandoned myself a lot. So,
Mm,
especially if you're good at empath and empathizing, I would just put myself down and be like, well, he knows, but okay, I'm going to go over there. Or I would just abandon what I thought and I felt. Well, I'm not going to say that. I don't know that that's right, or I don't know. So I just did that all over the place. Well, what's that teaching myself? That my who I am is not good enough or not worthy. So that you got to, like, it's a homecoming. For me, it was a homecoming to back to myself. So for me, it was like, not even sure what I feel sometimes. So I think the practice of journaling, kind of like what you do, journaling, what do I really feel about this? I have a practice where when I'm upset, I write, okay, what is the trigger? I've literally had to teach myself because I did not always know what I felt. I was so good at
mm,
abandoning myself. I had to go back. I had to, like, come home to myself. So trigger, what am I triggered? Why? What might be going on? What might be under that? And that's often where I'm like, oh, I have a resentment, or oh, I'm angry, or oh, so honoring your feelings, like truly, truly, truly honoring what's going on. I think that is a big component, not bypassing. It doesn't mean that I'm going to act on it, but, like, you know what? That feeling of whatever is valid because it's my feeling. A physical way to do that, I'm big in the whole hand to my heart. Like, I'm feeling frustrated that my son has been not putting his dishes, whatever, or was disrespectful or whatever's happened, hand on my heart. And it's just Julie, I'm with you and I will not leave you. And I do
mm.
call in God, the divine, and I say, you're with me too. We're here together. And there's you can do inner child work, but I think very simply, it's just, what is it you're feeling, and honoring that and not pushing it away. And then doing esteemable, lovable acts. So, for me, physically, that's self-care, that's exercise, that's my morning routine, that's eating really beautifully, talking to myself beautifully, talking to my body beautifully, even when I might feel like, wow, I thought it should look different right now.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, this is great. This is what it is. And that might mean after a year of pandemic, getting some new clothing to,
Yeah.
to, to be with what's here. But no, it's really like, it's like looking at yourself as, the sacred temple, the sacred ground that you are, and understanding that you are that as everyone else is. But treating yourself. And I do think taking yourself out for a date, taking yourself, booking. I just started doing massages every month, those things too. But some of it,
That's
some of it
awesome.
costs money, some of it doesn't have to. Yeah.
Yes, that's beautiful. I'm kind of curious because I did run across a gentleman that I coached, and I was that had taken my joy training, and it was pretty extensive. It's 6 months of training. I mean, it's a lot of good stuff. I'm
Wow.
biased, yeah,
It's
but
awesome.
one of the parts of it is loving yourself, is self love and deserving, and so that's the literally the way I describe it is that's the foundation that the pillars are built on, and the pillars
Mm,
are gratitude, or we call it appreciation, and an affirmed philosophy, and alignment, and and acts of kindness. Those are the four pillars,
mm,
and they're on the rock of self-deserving. And we
mm.
talked a lot about self-love and deserving and feeling that. And what I'm curious about is one of the things that I have people do is mirror talk, when they like look in their eyes, and man, that is powerful, and it's very woo. Okay. And
Yeah.
I've talked about this before. So it's one of those things where, as comfortable as I am with it, and I'll talk about it and I do it all the time, I'm still embarrassed when my wife opens the door and is like, are you talking to yourself in the mirror?
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
damn right I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Damn straight.
But
Yes, I
yeah,
am.
but this gentleman, he just didn't like himself at all and couldn't bring himself to say I love you, and he said it felt hollow, and I would put my own words into that, saying he didn't resonate with it. So I'm
Hmm.
curious about you being a master coach and trainer and everything. Any advice about that? Or if someone who is
Yeah.
listening doesn't love themselves, doesn't like themselves,
Yeah.
and all of this, putting the hand on the heart, or talking to yourself, or saying loving things to yourself, whatever doesn't resonate,
Yeah. It's a
what goes
great
on?
question. Great question. I actually, well, mirror work, and I'm such a huge fan. I was raised by a mother who listened to Louise Hay. So like when I was
Oh
10 and
wow,
11, I used to like, seriously, she would
wow,
have me do the whole like, Julie, hug yourself in the mirror. And I was like, oh God, you are Stuart Smalley on Saturday Night Live.
you are
What the
so
heck
woo woo.
happened?
Yeah.
I was like primed. I mean, this is like scratching at the surface, but I will tell you, and I've used it myself. And then people also like what you're saying, you've got to find something you do resonate with, otherwise it feels empty. We don't want to lie
Mhm.
to ourselves. So I remember this. I had a client who was wanted to release the weight that wasn't serving her, is the way I would say it. She had extra weight that was not really adding value for her, and she just did not like how she felt or looked. And I said to her, I was like, Christine, look in the mirror. I want you to find something that you actually feel is both you're grateful for, beautiful, like divinity. And we started with her eyes. I remember this. She came back. She said, you know what? I feel this way about my eyes. And I'm like,
That's
awesome.
cool.
Start there. And here's the thing, your eyes, your eyes, you're able to see every day. You're able to connect like that's that baby place that she started. And I'm going to tell you, I mean, she's shifted her whole life. She's actually hiking Mount Kilimanjaro right now as we're
Oh, that's
speaking.
awesome. That's so
She's
cool.
amazing. My first client, she was I love her to pieces. We still are in touch. And she was able to eventually, it was an inside job, her whole body, who she is. It was like watching the whole chrysalis in effect. Literally, I was like, I'm literally seeing a caterpillar, cocoon, butterfly. It was so beautiful. And so it doesn't matter where you start, but to your law of resonance, we've got to start with where you do resonate. And there's always something. There's got to be
That's
something.
beautiful. That's good. Yeah, what I did tell him that, and it was like kind of one of those question answer sessions, and I'm like, dang it, I let me think about that, and then I thought, and I said, you have to say something that feels true, because if it
Yeah.
doesn't feel true, and it grates your nerves as you're saying it or whatever, that's actually, I think, maybe even doing more harm than good,
Yes.
because you're
Yep.
completely out of resonance, right? So
Yeah.
I love that we get to use resonance so much, but
I do too.
yeah. But I said, well, is it true that you want to love yourself? And he said, well,
Mm,
yes. And I said, okay, there we go. So I want to love myself. And he did that. And that seemed to work a little bit, but I don't know. And actually, I need to check in on him. That would be really good. But I thought that
beautiful.
might be good. So I
Beautiful.
love, yeah, this is awesome. I love your takes here uh, on loving yourself and feeling good with that, and getting massages, which is awesome. By the way, we do like I tell people to set dates with themselves, to go out and get like, and massages is one of my ways of doing it, or watch a movie or something, because I can go watch a movie by myself, when it's
Yeah.
not a middle of a pandemic. But actually, Texas, we're cool now. We can go watch movies. I just wish
Right.
they would come back with the real movies. I think they're doing that next month, so we'll see.
Soon.
Yeah, it'll be soon. So that is all good. And the next thing, and I know I'm kind of looking at the clock here, and I love when
That's
those
great.
conversations, like when I'm having them, and I'm like, how long have we been talking? And like, oh my gosh, yeah, there it is.
I
Uh,
know. I'm like,
yeah,
what is
yes,
going on? It's quick, so
yes.
fast.
Intuition. Okay,
Yeah.
this is kind of your thing. I mean,
I
you
love it.
are really good with intuition. First of all, like, what is your definition of intuition? And let's go with how we start to listen to that, because this is can get
Yeah.
really practical. And what I love is that precipice, that edge of where the woo woo meets the real world, and
Yeah.
things that we can actually do. And that's kind of like where I that's my sweet spot. Hopefully, where we can help people.
Absolutely. Well, I would just ask this question, everyone listening, if you're, or, as we're talking here, I always ask, have you ever had a gut feeling or a sense about something for no reason? There's no logical reason, but you just had a feeling or a sense, or a thought or a knowing, and it ended up being, you listened to it and either you didn't or you did listen to it. But have you ever had that sense about something and you didn't have the reason, the logic behind it? So that's usually what I start with. And I'm assuming, since it's you and I can't really hear if anyone else is answering, although I can kind
Oh
of
yes,
pretend I hear them.
Julie. Yes.
Yeah, I have had that. I've actually never had somebody, and I've done this with many, many, many people. I've never had somebody never say they haven't, at least at one time in their life, had some sort of what I would just call as a knowing. It could be a gut feeling, it could be a sense, it could be a sensation. We all receive it. We all have different ways of receiving the knowing,
Yeah.
and there is science behind this. Dr. Rollin McCready in Heart Math, he goes into the science of intuition. It's not there's so much more. I won't even touch it, but I can tell you that there's intelligence in this, in the field, in us, around us, and we are able to pick up on it in different ways. And we actually all have that ability. Now, some of us have it, and I do think, like a muscle, you can develop it, you can fine tune it. There are ways to do that. Was somebody who was born, I had it in a few different ways, and I just, and I think there are others I've learned along the path. I didn't know what to do with it, and I blocked it. I did not want to. A lot of times, Dr. Judith Orloff, who's an amazing psychologist, wrote books about being an empath, and she talks about often empaths are very intuitive and don't always know what to do with those emotions. So we block them with food, with alcohol, with whatever. Depression sometimes can
Yeah.
be a block. So to me, it's as natural as, you have a stomach that's digesting food. I think you do. You're digesting, you have a heart, you've got, like, hopefully your thyroid. We have intuition. We have ways of perceiving information. And I really believe that it's one of the most powerful gifts that we all have. And I think of it as this treasure box that often people go in their life and they don't open it. And I really feel like one of the keys to being really in alignment and resonating with your best life, your best self, lives in that gift of intuition. And it's why it's so powerful. My whole life changed and has, like, expanded, blossomed. I mean, uh, I don't know what else to say. I mean, God is at the middle of it, and intuition is the bridge between me and
Yeah.
my BFF God. So, the divine. So
I love
that
that
is how it,
BFF concept, by the way. That's so
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
He, it is my BFF. And I hear her, him, it. I usually use that, or it. I hear this energy through my intuition, through this resonance, actually. And
Yeah.
there are ways to tune into it. But, one really quick way of doing this, like, especially those of us that are physically connected to ourselves, or, have a connection with body wisdom. We all have this. here's a test or tool or way to use it. Okay. Notice when you're around somebody, and it goes with the law of resonance, or notice, let's say you're at a restaurant, right? And you see a
Yeah.
dish, not what your eyes think. Tune into your body. Are you leaning in or are you leaning away? Our body is extremely wise. It's before our brain gets around it, before. So I'll tell you, like, okay, I love French fries, but my body's like, I'm sorry, sister, not today. So
Yeah.
what happens is it comes and I'll see, like, my husband, who could eat anything and does,
Yeah.
gets the burger and the fries. And I'm like, darn, that looks good. And I like, whoa, I go back. My body's like, no, but my mind is like, oh, I really want that. But if you're tuning in and learn how to tune into your body wisdom, that is connected to intuition. That's my belief. It's just
Yeah.
one way.
So do you just have to concentrate on that and just get into the habit of listening to your body, like just kind of what the body is saying?
Yeah. And meditation is really the best way to start getting that quieting down. For some of us, I know getting in nature and walking, that could be your meditation,
Yeah.
but getting in that receptive mode, which I'm sure, that receptive mode. I've seen it when I am, frankly, before this pandemic, when I was running around, it's like if you're running around and always in that energy of going from A to B, it's harder to be quiet and hear it. It really does take some, you gotta make the intention. I'm going to spend some time being
Yeah.
quiet every day
Because
to be able
our
to hear it.
minds are always chattering all the time.
Yeah,
And I know you have a
totally.
sign up there that I heard on the podcast. You said you are not your thoughts.
Yes. Oh my God. I say this
Yeah.
all the time because if you start believing those thoughts, I mean, first of all, I mean, sometimes I think I'm a fairy, so that's all right. But there are other thoughts still in the deep end. There are other thoughts. I'm like, that thought should get tossed and shredded with the other paper that I put there. Like, shred that thought. So sorry.
Yeah.
No bueno. No bueno, that thought.
That's cool. Yes, and I've
Yeah.
heard it said a few different ways, but you can pull back and become the observer of the thoughts, and
Yeah.
that is so powerful. And when you're able to do that and be objective, which, by the way, when you were talking about writing, about loving yourself and everything, and pulling out your journal and what was my trigger and why am I thinking that way, that
Yeah.
little bit of reflection is an objective conversation, and that is talking with someone who knows you so well and hopefully who loves you and wants the best for you. So I thought
Yeah.
that was really good. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I would add on to this. This is kind of cool because it goes along with our metaphor, and you just said it because there's a signal. And yeah, I think that God does speak to us through intuition in the way that we're designed, and that can be a physical thing, like how our body works, obviously,
Yep.
or it can just be the thought that comes into your head. And it's
Yeah.
strange because you said when you get something inexplicably, and it's really weird because the first thought I had, and this is a really dark place, and I don't know why it is, but
Mm.
I thought of a convenience store that's in our town that's on the expressway, and we have an expressway I-35 that runs through our town, and it goes from Mexico all the way up to Canada, and apparently it is like a sex traffickers. That's where they
Mm.
they run along that way, and I got an intuition one day that this little convenience stores that some of that's going down there, or they're stopping there, or they're eyeballing
Mm.
people there or something like that. And I just got a really strong feeling, and I have no idea why, but that was just
Mm.
like yeah, just almost like a physical thing. It just,
Yeah.
and that just came out of nowhere. And I'm like, wow, what's going on there? And
Yeah.
anyways,
That's
yeah,
really
yeah, I
powerful.
didn't mean to take it to a dark level, but the intuition
No.
is there. And
Well,
yeah,
I think if it's okay just to say really quick, because I was talking about body wisdom, you know, for some of us, for example, I get images, I get visions. I also hear things like you heard that. You heard, you might, for some of you, you might feel it. You might feel it in your body. You might get goosebumps for no reason. You might get this thought like, um, and I've had this in ways that are really profound. Some of them, I mean, I have so many stories. I'll spare you, but I mean, I can tell you, I've had this, this knowing so many times, and I'm like, I don't know where that came from, and then it
mhm,
comes to fruition, right? For
yeah,
either me or somebody else, about somebody's health around like what you said. So we all have different ways. It might be for those listening, you may not see it. I often get images. I'll get an image and I don't know where it's in my mind's eye. You might hear it, you might feel it, you might sense it, you might have all four. Um, there's no right or wrong, but it's that information that's coming through us. To me, it's all, it's learning to trust it, it's learning to honor it. And that's why I think having like beautiful friends, soul brothers, sisters like you and this community, it's so important to have others that can like really hold that space with you. Because sometimes, look, when I woke up in the middle of the night, my intuition woke me up and said, "You are
Yeah.
not okay here." I heard it. Um, and I heard if I don't leave, like my body was not going to make it. I mean, I actually heard that. And there's other times, and I've also heard in a way that was extremely uplifting, like go call that person now, go reach out, and
Yeah.
these miraculous things have happened. So I do think it's for our highest good. We just don't always
Yeah.
know, yeah,
And I
why.
think that intuition, it's always broadcasting. To go back to our
Yes,
example, it's always there. So it's just whether or not we are in tune to that station and
totally.
in frequency, resonating, whatever word we want to use with it. But that's good. But stopping, getting quiet and still,
Yeah.
meditating. And I love that meditating. Viktor Frankl talked about this, about the space between the stimulus and response, and that in
Yes.
there lies our freedom. And
Yes.
meditation lengthens that time between stimulus and response. It like slows down life so you can see the stitches on the fastball, and
Oh, I
just,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's just kind of my thought with that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. To see the fish as we're scuba diving, it allows you
Yeah.
slow down to see, to really take it in. Yeah, absolutely. And I truly, for my own life, and this is something I have been tracking, and I always say, hey, if you want to like get how powerful this is, go do an intuitive inventory. Go look at your life and notice and write down the times when you've known something or felt something for no reason and you listened to it and when you didn't. Just go track it. And
Yeah.
you only have to do a couple experiences. It's beyond beautiful, miraculous, amazing. It's really powerful. And I that going back to the first question about awakening for me, Chip, my contract with myself when I decided to start a business that frankly, like no one supported me in it. I mean,
Mm.
financially, my mom was like, go, Julie, you made up a song, but like no one was like, hey, here's your like seed fund. It was like, good
Yeah.
job. Hope you do well. I was like, you know what? I have decided I'm going to let intuition and my connection to the divine that is guiding this business. That's what's happening. And it has been beyond my wildest dreams, and it
That
keeps
is so
expanding.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'll just say this, and I'm looking at the time, and I'm about to let you go. So just I'll
it's just
keep you
so
for a
fun.
little
I don't.
longer.
It's
Yeah,
amazing, amazing.
I had a talk in that intuition. It's so funny because I talk about the God bookend or whatever, and this, and again, very woo. It sounds very strange, and it doesn't, ever, it hasn't happened to me like this before. But I remember thinking, doing my God bookend one day, and I'm like, should I go for this? Should I not go for this or whatever? And like I meditated in my car, which I often do, and I heard a voice from the back seat, and it was a physical voice, and
Oh
it
wow.
said, um, "Gosh, I'm getting emotional even thinking about it because it sounds crazy."
Mm,
But the voice said, "I've given you a spirit. I've not given you a spirit of timidity, but of boldness and love." And
mm,
so what's really crazy about that is I heard it, and it felt so right. And you were talking about resonance, and it resonated with me so deeply, and when I got out of the meditation, I wrote it down because I usually journal right after meditating. And I wrote that down, and I said, you know what? Uh, I'm just curious. And I Googled it, of course, spirit of fear and timidity, because I remembered that, and I Googled that, and it's a Bible verse. And it was
mm,
just really interesting. And it didn't say boldness, but it did say love, which is really interesting. And
mm,
that was, and it's not a verse that I knew, at least, consciously or whatever. It just didn't. But that was such a neat, unique experience. So that's kind of how intuition works,
mm.
I think. And
Beautiful.
yeah.
Totally.
So,
Wow.
anyways, yeah, that's kind of cool.
So
And
cool. Who doesn't want that? I'm like,
Yeah.
who doesn't want that kind of like broadcasting? That's what I'm like, I live for that. It's amazing. That's an
Yeah,
amazing
that's cool. And
story.
there's a lot of other woo woo stuff we could talk about. I mean, actually, there's other stories I want to tell you because I don't think I told you the MRI story. Maybe I did. I think I might have actually talked about that on your podcast. I'm not sure.
Oh, I think you did, but I mean, I
If
can
you're
hear it
not
again because I
remembering
love
it, there's
listening.
no way I talked about it then.
No, then you didn't. If I don't know it's
No.
true, maybe I did it. Maybe you told me you wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that might have happened, but
Can
I'm
you
looking
share
at
it
the.
quickly?
Okay, all
Quickly?
right, real quickly. If you don't have to
Yeah.
go, because I know you had 2 hours planned for this, and I'm looking at the time here.
We got
So
time for the MRI story. I'm
okay.
sorry. You gotta tell me.
Woo, okay. And in fact, I thought about this while you were talking about those young, good-looking EMPs looking at you or whatever,
Right.
because my story with the EMPs looking at me was when I had my stroke in middle of an entrepreneurs conference. I had is an entrepreneurs who want to change the world, and I was talking to a friend right after lunch, talking to him, and I was trying to ask him who were the speakers who had gone that morning because I was suffering a really bad flu and I had to sleep some of the morning to try and sleep it
Mm,
off or just to heal or whatever. And I couldn't say the word speaker. And I knew I wanted to say it, but like I literally I would start speaking and it was like gibberish coming out of my
mm,
mouth. And my friend was looking at me and his head is super awesome guy. Josh Leslie is his name. And Josh, if you're listening, shout out to you. I love you, brother. And he
mm.
like looked at me and how someone like turns their head and like, what's going on? And
Yeah.
he's looking at me like that. And he's just stopped me because this is going on for, I don't know how long it was. I was completely lucid during the whole thing. I knew what was happening. Um,
Mm,
but he said, Chip, just sit down. And he went and got the organizers of the convention, and they came out. And luckily, they had two neuroscience geeks who sat me down and did a stroke test right away, and they knew that I was having a stroke. And it's one of those
mm,
things where they do the finger and follow our finger with your eyes. And I knew I was doing that. Don't move your head, but just look at with track it with your eyes. And I thought I was doing that, but I was moving my whole head and everything. And they're like, yeah, you got to call the paramedics. So they called the paramedics, and like within 20 minutes, I was in the hospital from having what turned out to be a stroke. I didn't know it was a stroke at the time, but I was super scared. And
mm.
oh my gosh, it's my memories were gone. I couldn't remember any of my friends' names. Uh,
Mm.
and the only people that I knew were my family or people that had known me forever. And I passed out several times and
Mm.
just really more scared than I'd ever been. And
Mm.
this has a good ending, okay? But the next day after this, and I'd blacked out several times. I was in the hospital all alone, very scared. And they took me to an MRI the next day. And if you know the MRIs, they put you in, and it's like a giant donut, a metal coffin, and they put you in there.
Mm.
And I'm already a big guy, so there wasn't much space around me. And they said this will take 45 minutes to an hour. And the guy asked me, he said, "Hey, would you like to listen to some music while you do that?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And I couldn't use mine because if any metal got in it, it would ruin the image or whatnot. So he says, "I have this headband. So put on this headband, and it has plastic earbuds in it, and you can listen." And so I put them on, and as I was sliding into the tube, uh, the song "Pride in the Name of Love"
Mm.
by U2 started, and that's my theme song. That's the theme song that I had chosen for myself. I thought, if I'm going and talking on stages or whatever, that's the song I want playing because I just love that and I love the message and it's just awesome. And I asked the guy while I was inside because I could talk to him. And I said, "Hey, were you using my iPod or my phone or whatever?" And he said, "No, it turned it onto a radio station. This is a classic rock station." And it played at that exact moment while I was so scared. And that's the MRI story because that was a soul hug from God. And it was just saying, it's going to be okay. And I was freaking freaking out and worried, what's going to happen to my family. And yeah,
Mm.
and I got that at that time. And it's still so powerful for me. It's still, I mean, obviously I still get emotional when I think about it.
Mm.
But that is an MRI story. And it happened. Um, and when I heard it, the message that I got, and I don't know that it was a clear voice or anything like that, but what I felt was, there's so much more for you, and you're not done yet, and there's so much more for you to do. And actually, I guess it was more accurately, so much more for us to do, which
Mm.
which was just really powerful. So there you go.
Wow.
See, you were talking that you were going to cry on this, and there you go, and you got me to do this because you're like, "Don't Chip, tell the MRI story."
Tell
So
that
there
my
you go.
story.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, now I'm tearing. I'm like, it's so funny. I had like a piece of mascara in my eye and I'm like, actually just got it out. So thank you. What, what
Yeah.
a beautiful, powerful story though. Like really. And that's the thing. Like it's something like that. And all of a sudden in a moment of just hearing that song, you're like, I'm guided. I'm not alone.
Yeah. And I'm good.
I'm gonna be
And
okay.
actually, that was a
Yeah.
turning point, and that was I wasn't nearly as scared, and
Wow.
that's just kind of powerful. So that's the MRI story.
Wow.
So if you didn't
That's
remember that on your
amazing.
podcast, I'm pretty sure we didn't talk about it. So
I don't think so. Now I'm like, I will never forget that. Yeah, I'm that is like it's so well, and it's like the whole we're not done,
yeah.
hearing that. Like there's more to be expressed through you, which thank God there is. And I would affirm that.
Oh,
Oh
well,
yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, I just call it a soul hug is what I felt.
I
So
love that. A soul hug. I love that. I heard that. I was like, that's beautiful.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah.
I am like just, and I think the person you are, the joy you bring, the appreciation, the gratitude, teaching how to live really as connected to our highest residents, the
There we
resonance.
go. Yeah.
I know, I love that word. That was like the best
I'm going to
word
start
ever.
using it all the time now because this is the first time I unleashed that on the world. So
Yay, we brought it out here. I'm
yes.
so excited that I helped to I was maybe the resonance doula.
There you go. Yes, you brought it forth. Yep.
So you could birth it. There you go.
Yep. Yeah.
First time birthing. I'm just really touched. It's a powerful story. And like, look at where you are today. What a gift that you're okay and more than
Well,
okay.
well, thank you. Yeah, I feel that too, and that's one of the things that I start off with being grateful for every day. And see, I think about that all the time. There's so many little disappointments or things that don't go exactly right, and we um, we become what we think about. We are not our thoughts, but we resonate
Yeah.
with that, and that's kind of what dominates us. And we forget all of the big things, that we're healthy and that we have our loved ones with us, and we have the ability to
Yeah.
think and to move
Yeah.
and to appreciate and to love life and all of those things, when we're focusing on these little tiny little gnats, rather than taking in the big picture of the whole big, bright, beautiful Technicolor world. And that's just it.
Mm,
Yeah.
so beautiful.
Yeah. Well, Julie, I'm
Such
going to
an
have to let you go. I imagine. I mean, not that I want to or whatever. I could talk many more hours with you, and I'm hoping that you and I can set this up again.
Me too. This was so much fun. No, I am like, I had this moment of like, where am I? Like, I feel like we've been in this special resonance vortex for the last, I don't know. I looked at the time. I'm like, what happened? Well, I hope this was just, it's such a gift for me. And I always love talking to you and talk about resonance. The minute we started chatting, I'll never forget it. I remember exactly where we were sitting in
Yeah,
Cleveland at
I can see
the,
that too.
that beautiful room. And I remember I was like, what? Who is this? How do I not know him? I feels like literally soul family. You
Yeah,
literally feel like that.
that was
I'm
very
grateful for
cool.
you.
And yep. So my soul sister Julie, thank you very much for this. This has been an honor,
Oh,
and I honor you for doing this, the work that you do, the people that you help, and the impact that you have made, that you are making, and will make on this world. Allow me to say thank you as one of the many people who you have touched.
thank you so much. I see the same in you, my friend. And someday I will tell you my mantra.
It'll happen.
It'll happen. I'll see you in
Yeah.
Austin. I'll tell you one night under the stars with all of our friends. I'll pull you aside and be like, all right, Chip, here it is.
All right, here it is. It's raw. No,
It's
just
raw, raw. Exactly. Right. Exactly.
all right.
Exactly. Oh, you're awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right.